Although it pains me to do so, because of the respect I have for the legislative branch of government and my decades-long record of cooperating with Congress, under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions.
In an extraordinary scene on Capitol Hill Wednesday, Dr. Anthony Fauci repeatedly refused to answer questions from Senate Republicans about the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic and the government's response to it, invoking his Fifth Amendment right not to incriminate himself more than 100 times. The contentious hearing came just days after Senator Rand Paul released more than 1,000 pages of Fauci's personal diaries, with the Kentucky lawmaker drawing on excerpts from those documents to claim that Fauci's private records tell a different story than what he told the country. We are back with Dan Henninger, Alicia Finley, and Wall Street Journal editorial board member Joe Sternberg. So, Joe, you followed these hearings on the Hill, the hearing on the Hill, and you looked at the diaries. What did you learn from the diaries that's significant about the whole debate over how the government handled COVID?
Well, I think that the important thing that emerges from the diaries is context, because remember, there's been a lot of information that's come out over the past few years about Dr. Fauci's correspondence with other scientists, sort of their efforts to circle the wagons behind various theories of the COVID virus's origins, that kind of thing. But what we have in the diary is his own voice giving us a record of what he was thinking at the time. And I think that one of the surprises is that some of these incongruities or statements where we have long suspected there was a difference between what he said in public and what was going on behind the scenes. A lot of that was very deliberate, because I think that they were very mindful of sort of giving a united message to the public, whether or not they thought that was always supported by the data or the science. And we've also discovered that personally, a lot of Dr. Fauci's response to this was driven by his obsession with his own media coverage and his desire to be out there in front of the cameras a lot. And that raises questions about whether that aspect of it sort of shaped his behavior.
One of the things, Alicia, that's notable to me in looking at the diaries is there's been a lot of focus on Fauci looking at his press clippings. But the more interesting thing to me is the degree to which he and the media were working together, really, to kind of impose a conformity on the responses to COVID. You couldn't deviate, for example, on what was the origin of the virus. You couldn't deviate on things like mandates for vaccines and so on.
That's right. And in fact, we found out a few years ago through some other documents that the Congress had subpoenaed that Francis Collins, then the head of the NIH, had coordinated with Dr. Fauci to demand a quote-unquote public takedown of the Great Barrington Declaration. And that Great Barrington Declaration argued for focused protection on the elderly and those with disabilities while allowing the rest of the society to go on living. And so what you see in these diaries is his kind of a codependent relationship with the media. They both were very interested, especially in 2020, in taking down Donald Trump. They did not want Donald Trump to win a re-election. And that's why the media really gave a big megaphone to Dr. Fauci, because he was willing to criticize Donald Trump. Now, I think it's also ironic if you look at or read some of his other diary postings. He also criticizes people, for instance, on Fox News, and even he didn't directly criticize us at the Wall Street Journal editorial page, but other people for trying to shut down debate on this by criticizing him. So there's a little bit of a lack of self-perception here.
Well, this is what's so disturbing to me. I mean, Dr. Fauci, that people say he's a narcissist. So I think that ad hominem stuff is not the most important thing. The most important thing is we didn't get a debate during the COVID pandemic of the kind we should have on lockdowns, on all these other policies. We should have had that debate.
We should have had that debate, the sort of debate you have about any other major public policy decision. But it's hard to imagine any bigger public policy decision than was taken. The closure of much of the American economy, the closure of most of its schools for a long period of time. There was no larger idea that could have been proposed out there. And yes, we needed a debate or a discussion. We didn't get it. And as you were suggesting, the press, the media this is one of the most damaging incidents, I think, in the history of the American media. They're the ones that are supposed to be a platform for debating these sorts of things. And the effect of this, Paul, has been to do very long-term damage to the public's belief and trust in what the press at the time was calling science and to American institutions. It has contributed to the polarization, left and right. It has caused a lot of people to disappear for their information into like fringe influencers rather than any kind of trusted establishment information. Really was quite destructive.
And no self-reflection that I've noticed here now. Joe, briefly, Fauci was granted a categorical pardon by Joe Biden before Biden left office. Why did he feel he needed to take the fifth now?
Well, so he said in the hearing that he is concerned that Republicans in the Senate Oversight Committee or the Homeland Security Committee were laying perjury traps for him. So he seems to have been concerned that he might accidentally trip over his words in a way that would get him in trouble. But it's not a great excuse because I think, especially with that pardon in place, the public is entitled to answers and explanations here, and he was a public servant.